year ago today, Tjino's best FNCS placement was 20th. Now, he's an FNCS champion on EU, runner-up in another, and he led globals and eliminations while being contested every game. His unstoppable fighting ability allowed him to get so good so fast. But how exactly is he doing it? One thing Tjino is really smart about is not getting tunnel vision in bad situations. In this first example here, Tjino needs to disengage as the opponent he is fighting is playing super defensively and he keeps getting third-partied. He uses his wingsuit, pops a big, and heads over to the drop since he doesn't have as much heals or materials, but the opponent notices this and decides to push, as he assumes Tjino is weak. Tjino realizes the opponent probably won't back off, so instead of getting tunnel vision and continuing towards the drop, he cuts his losses and stops on a dime to counter-peek the opponent and take height. Tjino goes for some piece control and the opponent thinks he gets out, but Tjino is able to place walls in both directions the opponent might go when he opens his double edit from above. This muscle memory to place the side walls allows him to get an opening here, as the opponent would have to fully spin around to take that back wall. The opponent doesn't realize Tjino has this piece, allowing him to build and edit another wall next to the opponent and full box him. Tjino then uses this 50-50 peek that I don't see enough people using. The standard 50-50 option here would be to break the stair and place your own cone, as Tjino does do here, but Tjino makes a really simple play I think more players should add to their game. When he takes the cone, he shoots the opponent and then instantly edits the cone tile closest to him to block any counter fire from the opponent. This edit is also good because even though the floor is his in this situation, in other fights the opponent may have the floor here while you only have the cone, and this keeps him from having access to his floor. He then is able to re-edit the cone to easily finish the fight here. This is a pretty simple edit to take an advantage here that more players should implement, as generally players will just 50-50 after placing the cone here, but this allows Tjino to turn a 50-50 into more like a 70-30 here since the opponent has such a small window to shoot back and now he has more piece control. Another key takeaway from this fight was that Tjino was able to snap out of his goal to try and get the supply drop to switch onto the opponent and take the advantage in the fight. Our brains tend to try and lock into a specific goal and can ignore broader changes in strategy that can lead to better outcomes, which can lead to tunnel vision. The decision to disengage was another example of Tjino fighting tunnel vision. He knows he is better than the opponent, but for the sake of his game, the right call is not to lock in on the opponent, instead to cut his losses and recoup and look for more kills in better situations. As I mentioned, this cone peek is a really solid option, and Tjino has quite a few clever peeks up his sleeve as seen in this next fight here. To start this fight, Tjino and the opponent trade, but Tjino has a slurp juice active, so he knows that he is good to push. He then uses a really interesting movement option where he sprint jumps toward the opponent's wall, then instantly changes direction by turning and placing a stair to get a different wall instantly. He goes for a pre-fire, but the opponent doesn't open, and then sets up this interesting stair peek that he uses a ton in these solo games. This sideways stair here gives him multiple options, as it blocks the opponent generally from shooting him and his head specifically with the railing on the stair. It allows him to pressure the wall from the bottom right while not giving his opponent an angle there either, and it allows for a jump peek over the stair if the opponent opens up. He also placed a cone above his head to easily get out if the opponent tries to piece him up here. The opponent holds the wall, so Tjino relocates to above, where the opponent tries to get out, and Tjino uses high walls here to narrowly almost pump him. Tjino drops back down and notices from the opponent's visual audio that he is trying to go into another box to the left. This is kind of an awkward place to fight with the terrain for the opponent, and Tjino already has the piece to the opponent's right, so Tjino reads that the opponent will need to go 2 boxes out to find unclaimed space. He tries to double edit this and the opponent is barely able to get out, but not before Tjino snags the wall here. He misses the shot and recognizes the opponent is going to run at him because he is full boxed, so he simply edits the cone back to cage the opponent again and walks around to the side wall to easily pump him from a window peek. Here is another quick example of Tjino using this stair peek. In the endgame here, Tjino awareness checks the opponent and takes his wall using this setup, and is able to peanut butter edit and use the edited stair to make a really nice peek here where the opponent wouldn't be able to swing left to open up the angle to get counter damage. Tjino is then able to finish the fight after taking some counter damage but one hitting the wall and editing while the opponent still had pump delay and wasn't able to shoot him. Some of these fights require more than clever peeks though, and you need to play a little more aggro so you don't get third-partied. In this example here, you can see that Tjino starts the fight by jump ADSing with his pistol. Out of any pro that I've analyzed, Tjino does this by far the most, and I expect to see more players adapt and learn how to do this effectively. He is able to conserve his momentum from sprinting and jump slides, and ADSing here lets him minimize his bloom instead of hip firing. When you play ranked, try this every time you push someone, as there is definitely a learning curve to accurately aim while doing this, but it will be an important skill to develop in 2026. He tags the opponent twice here and goes for some drop down piece. This was a smart play here, as he stands on top of the box and pressures the front wall, meaning that he is cutting off those two options for the opponent. Because of this, the opponent either has to go down or out the side, but Tjino unfortunately guesses incorrectly. Tjino uses his pressure here to try and force the opponent to pick an option which he tries to read, which is something that the best fighters in the world are all good at right now. In this clip, Shark uses a really similar setup, and I go over this in depth in my video on Sharks fighting. Tjino then tries to pickaxe in from a side wall, and notice here how he swings his pickaxe and pulls out his build menu and then pulls his pickaxe back out. Something Tjino is really good at is about how infrequently he double pickaxes in situations like this. Because there is a set amount of time between pickaxe swings no matter what, the time where he can't swing his pickaxe, he is often looking to take an extra piece if possible, as this is usually downtime you can't really do anything in. He's able to box himself in during this time and then takes the wall. He one-shots the opponent's metal wall and uses his game knowledge for a really clever setup here. He shoots the wall once with his shotgun and jump swings through the wall since it is a freshly built metal wall to catch the opponent off guard, and breaks the wall in the fastest time possible to secure the kill. Another interesting aspect of this is how he goes into the box with his pistol instead of his shotgun now. He knows that he has hit the opponent for about 50 damage and that he hasn't had time to heal, so he estimates that he's about 150 HP. Because of this, Tjino knows that a single pump shot to the body is not enough to get the full kill, and a lot of times setting up a headshot like that by jumping into a box can be difficult since you are up close to the opponent and they can be moving unpredictably. So Tjino starts with his pistol out to hit the opponent twice to get him below 100 HP, which gives him time to figure out exactly where the opponent is located and sets up a pump shot to finish the fight. Another positive behind going into the box here with his pistol out is if the opponent manages to place a stair or edit a cone here, you'd be able to spray and replace that stair instantly. Tjino's mental counter of structure damage is really impressive, as we can see in this fight here. He dives in to finish off a third party and the opponent narrowly gets out, but Tjino gets some impressive piece and takes the stair in the box. He opens a window edit here, but knowing it's a 50-50, he baits the opponent to shoot since it's difficult to see exactly where Tjino is for the opponent, and hard swings left to wait for the opponent's shot before resetting for a wide edit and an easy shot during the opponent's pump delay. Fortunately for the opponent, he can mantle out above due to the in-a-loop ceiling window, and Tjino chases him. He goes for a phase in here, and notice how he swings his crosshair so that he hits the critical spot so he can get into the box even quicker. Tjino does this a ton. He is always looking for the critical hit spot, even if it sometimes means his crosshair placement isn't perfect, so that he can pressure more quickly. While he ends up relocating and not getting in since the opponent placed a stair, he double edits in, and with his first swing he hits the stair and then instantly turns to take the wall the opponent just ran into. This is another example of Tjino not getting tunnel vision, as well as recognizing when a build is one hit, as most players here would double pickaxe the stair or pull out their gun when the opponent moves, but Tjino instantly swaps his attention to the freshly edited metal wall, where he takes it and finishes the fight quickly. Here is another quick example of how often he looks for critical hits to surprise his opponent in fights. Here, he starts the fight by jump ADSing with his pistol to keep his momentum and takes height. He then hits the opponent's sidewall in the 2x1 and swings his crosshair up to it to go for the second hit, but decides against it initially. He then goes up and double pickaxes the opponent's front wall so that it is one shot as a bait to redirect the opponent's attention, then instantly drops back down and goes back to the old critical hit spot to surprise the opponent and quickly ends the fight. The critical hit spot stays on a build for about 5 seconds after you hit it, which is a long time in a fast-paced fight like this, and Tjino's knowledge of this allows him to quickly take this fight with a trick not many players are used to. Another example of Tjino's attention to the health of builds is how he is able to quickly open up this third party here. He jumps down and sprays into the weak wood wall in the opponent's 2x1. He's able to retain his momentum by sliding down the stair, ensuring that he will be able to phase in when he breaks the floor. And before the opponent can react to place a wall, he cracks his shield. Tjino then follows the opponent and double pickaxes the wall here at an angle that makes it really difficult to peek on, as if the opponent were to open either side wall, Tjino would be partially covered by each wall, making it a tough shot. Tjino tries to phase in with no luck, and the opponent goes out on top. However though, Tjino tracks the opponent's movement using visual audio perfectly, and runs out the box and takes the floor and cone the opponent tries to place, allowing him to edit the opponent down to easily finish the fight. One final example of Tjino's knowledge of the build grid and low HP walls is seen here, where he gets shot for 50 when pushing. Knowing the opponent is boxed up since it is half and half, he knows he can pop a big for free here and sees through his cone the opponent edited a fresh brick wall. Tjino pushes, and when the opponent resets, he takes the wall easily with one pistol shot, giving him the edge in the fight. The opponent likely had no idea that Tjino could take his wall from that distance, but Tjino's game knowledge allowed him to gain an advantage here. He makes sure to stay between the third party and the opponent and pressure from above, where he uses the safe pickaxe angle here to pressure the opponent's wall. The opponent drops and Tjino starts edit coursing towards him, and the opponent thinks Tjino Tjino is likely going to instantly pressure the wall with a spray weapon or pickaxe since Tjino had been playing so aggressive up to that point. So he mixes it up, stops moving towards him, and hits an easy pre-fire here. Tjino tries to take the wall, but gets shot in the back, and the opponent now thinks he is safe to get out. Tjino realizes this though, and knowing he still has enough HP to fight, simply follows the opponent through his builds and finishes the fight since the opponent doesn't think Tjino will be following him and doesn't cover himself quick enough. Tjino uses smart critical hits, jump ADS, low health builds, clever peeks, and misdirection to win fights so easily. And if you're interested in how Shark tries to force his opponent to pick a certain option and reads it like a book, click the video on screen.